The 11 Bang Bang Reload Show starts now.
Hello, everybody. We are back. I'm sorry we're a little late. I just realized that all the last few times I've been doing this, I'm watching my timer in the corner, and it's about 8 minutes off. So sorry about that. Over here to my right tonight, we have Classic Guns Today, and he is one of the guys I like to go watch his videos when it comes to more, I say modern double actions, but really the classics, especially the early 20th century. Sorry. And down here we have Snapper, of course, you all know him, practically co-host. And we have A American, who actually has quite a bit to say about double action revolvers here lately. He's got several videos out on them. And guys, let's just kick it off. I'm going to go over here because our new guest here, of course, is Classic Guns Today. What got you started in the revolver business, the revolver world, shall we say?
Well, like I said, when I was about 24 years old for Christmas, my father, who's sitting right next to me, by the way, got me an 1851 Navy Pieta ball and cap. A couple of years later, when I was about 27, something happened in the neighborhood. I was visiting my mom and dad. I think their cars had been broken in or something. And the only thing I had that could be remotely called any kind of handgun was that Pieta Navy. I loaded it, ball and cap, five chambers, put it on my bedside table. And after a while, there's no way to unload this without shooting it. Long story short, I finally decided I need to get a gun, some kind of gun. And I went down to Collector's Firearms in Houston and started looking around. So I just want something fundamental, plain Jane, easy to use. And I came up with this. It was like for $250 down at Collector's Firearms. This was like 18 years ago. It's an official police 38, nice. Unloaded, of course. Supposedly made in 1944, according to proofhouse.com. Now, whether that's accurate or not, that's something of a discussion. But this is the first revolver of any kind I ever bought. First modern revolver of any kind, in 38 special. And gradually I've moved on to other things, as you see here. And you got Smith & Wessons over here. You got Colts over here. And they're all in 38 or 357 Magnum. And I've been shooting them and collecting them for just up until now. And I've always enjoyed them. They're very fundamental weapons. They're simple to operate. They're reliable. That in a nutshell is it.
Is that what drew you to them? I have to ask because, 18 years ago, that's the heyday of when it's Glock or not, in the early 2000s. And so I was wondering, what drew you to a revolver versus a modern semi-auto?
Sort of just, my dad and I got to talking about this one day, and he's always favored the plain, what he calls the plain Jane 38 special. And that's basically this, only he kind of favors the Smith & Wesson version, the Model 10. But it's a plain Jane 38 policeman's revolver, 4-inch barrel, 38. They're very simple to operate. And I started leaning towards, I never cared for Glocks personally. It just didn't, they're not for me. I just don't care for them. I was leaning towards a 1911, but I figured, why not just start out with a revolver? They are plain Jane. They're very plain and simple to use. They're easy for the average person to start using and get a kind of a fundamental understanding of how to safely handle firearms. I mean, that's my taste. I realize that's very kind of going against the grain of what most people prefer. That we're kind of geared towards leaning towards automatics now, particularly striker fire pistols. But that's just not my taste personally.
Yeah, exactly. And I appreciate that because I started buying. I was pretty young then too, but I was getting into the handgun world about that same time. But I was, I kind of thought a Glock would be all right until I got inundated with people telling me every handgun has to be a Glock, every Glock has to be a 9mm, and it got so bad that I was like, and I've had Glocks, I still carry a Glock from time to time, but I got to a point where I was like, I want something that not everybody else has.
Right. You don't want to follow.
Hey guys, just real quick, we got a really bad echo. I don't know if it's happening through all you guys or if it's just me. That's why I switched to an earpiece. Do you guys hear it as well?
I don't.
I hear just a very tiny one, but it's livable.
Okay, all right.
Are you still getting it?
I still get it a little bit. It's not too bad. It just sounds like there's a speaker is on really high. Yeah, an echo. I switched to an earpiece to make sure it wasn't me.
Yeah. Well, if it gets unbearable out there in the chat, let us know, guys.
Let us know in the chat, guys. Sorry
I'm going to
about that.
go over here. Oh, by the way, guys, out in the chat, we have a set of rules on the live, and we ask you to hold to them in the chat, and that is that we keep it clean and family friendly, and we don't get deeply into politics. And Duke Frazier is out there with his wrench, and if he has to, he will throw it. Just letting you guys know. So anyway,
hey Duke,
let's go over here and
hey Duke.
American said good evening. Of course, he's here. Victor Schultz is in. 11 Bang Bang, that's me, I guess. I typed that a little bit ago. Chopper 505, Christopher Mead, iPod Walker. iPod Walker actually named the show, so he's been with us for a while. I believe it was him.
Yeah, he is.
Toilet Green, I can't remember. Garza Vlogs is out there. 2 Shots, good to see you, 2 Shots. And Duke Frazier's out there. So
I haven't seen Purple People Eater in a while. Must be gone for a while.
Yeah, people come and go. So anyway, guys, tonight we are discussing classic double action revolvers, and we might go into the 19th century, but we're mostly covering, early 20th century, as I like to call it, the film noir era. That's what really gets me into them. But I'm going to go down here and talk to A American here. What got you into revolvers? I think you've told me before that your first handgun was a revolver.
When I was growing up, running around in that, we would I'd carry a little 22 pistol for snakes, and it was a little single action, and I loved it. I grew up watching Western movies, loved single actions. Then when I got old enough to buy a handgun, I didn't have a lot of money. The very first handgun I ever bought, and God, is it humiliating, but I bought a Brico little 380 semi-automatic, had it less than a month, and firing pin broke. Got that fixed, had it 2 weeks, slide cracked, sent it back, got it fixed, never shot it again, and sold it off. The next gun I bought was a Charter Arms Bulldog 44, and it's probably the only gun I ever regret getting rid of, or regret the most. All my buddies were like, buy a Glock, because that was in the 90s, and they all had Glocks, and I never found one that fit my hand. I was always like this, I couldn't find that perfect grip on it. So I ended up buying revolvers just because I really like revolvers. And I had little snub nose revolvers because back then we didn't have, not just anybody could get a CPL or a concealed carry license in Michigan. You had to have a reason, like you carried large sums of money back then. But I always thought a snub nose was practical because if you had to, you could stick it in your pocket, whatever, and all my buddies used to laugh. Well, now they all got CPLs and they're trying to buy the smallest little automatic they can find in that. And I still carry, to this day, revolvers because, matter of fact, Garrett was the only one that noticed it or said anything on my Fitz special video, but it's a 6 shot. I fired 5 rounds out of it. One of them didn't go off. I mean, the primer hit and everything. It was just a bad round. It didn't go off. Had that been a semi-auto in a life or death situation, I would have had to stop, clear it. Who knows what would have happened by then? With a revolver, all I had to do was keep pulling the trigger.
Yep.
So I'm a big, huge revolver fan for concealed carry. I just always have been and probably always will be. And I like old guns. I mean, my everyday carry is a 1956 Colt Detective Special. I have that Fitz Special I carry sometimes, but I like old, I call them gangster guns, little snub noses,
Yep. I'll go down here to Snapper because, correct me if I'm wrong, but until recently, you weren't in the double action revolver world, were you?
No, I actually finally got my first double action a couple months ago.
Show everybody your first double action, and if you guys know Snapper, you know what his first double action is going to be.
You definitely know what my first double action is going to be.
1877 Colt.
Matter of fact, my wife is she still looks at me like I'm stupid about this, and she says, "You're not going to do it." But this is going to be my concealed carry gun soon.
Yep.
Once I get this thing set up, it's running reliably enough now that I would carry it concealed carry, but I just want to make sure that I can go through about 500 rounds without any get up, no problems, no nothing.
Yeah.
Then I'll do it. And I just haven't shot 500 rounds through it yet, but I have had zero issues on it with playing with the timing and getting it right. And I'd trust my life to it. I really do. But my wife thinks I should carry a, M&P shield or something.
Mm-hmm. Well, I always have to do this to him, guys, because he's been working so long to get that. He got one, he shows it off, and then I can do this.
And he's got to show off too.
I can show off too. Actually, we have two for the Colt series. We need one in. We need one in 38 and one in 41. And I don't think we're ever going to own a Rainmaker in 32. So that's just going
to have to make it.
I will own a Lightning someday.
Yeah, well,
You'll find one.
At the time, you guys both got me outclassed in the Colt world because I have my new new Army Special. But you guys both have Classic Guns Today and A-American are into the detective specials.
Well, that's your fault, Garrett. That's your fault. You were the one that
those are nice.
You were the one that started that conversation and got me going.
Yep, and that's one of them deals where I've owned one as far as I bought it and then didn't get it. Everything didn't work out where it got to me. So I really would like to get into those. So tell me, guys, what draws you to the detective special over say a modern J-frame or something like that? What is special about the detective special? 6 shots?
6 for sure. We're supposed to have 6 shots, not just 5. That's just me, but
the 6 shots is definitely an advantage. But what draws me to it, flat out, and because I'm in town, I got to be careful how I do this. But I mean, look at that. Look at this, the lines on that. It's just,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's a good looking gun.
Beautiful gun,
Yeah. And is yours a second model or a third model Classic guns?
This is a second, I believe.
Yeah.
It's supposedly from 1966, again, according to TruthHealth.com. I got this many years ago, and yes, it's the easiest gun I have to carry, and I had to give it to my wife. She's watching right now, so it was my honor.
You know what?
You mentioned
classic guns can probably attest to this. That is the smallest 6-shot revolver I have ever held. It fits in my 5-shot J-frame holster like it was made for it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and you mentioned how it fits your hand so well. That's exactly why I gave it to my wife. I started giving her other guns and trying out other guns and gun stores and all, but this exact gun with these exact grips, the classic grips, fit her little hand perfectly.
Well, I had to put the Tyler T grip in mine because my hands are so big. It was too small of a grip, but
right. I actually like to get her a Colt Cobra just like this. That's aluminum frame. It's a little less heavy, a little kind of heavy for her purse, but it fits her hand perfectly. It's just, and it is. There's a reason this has been popular for so long because it is that easy to carry, and the 38 Special really does. People like to say, "Oh, it's just a 38 Special." The 38 Special isn't really just anything. It's a very versatile round. It's what gave us 357 Magnum. In fact, its predecessor was I believe the 38-44 High Speed, which I think Buffalo Bore kind of duplicated in recent years, keeping it in plus P territory with modern technology. But that was the predecessor to the 357 Magnum. But now, of course, you think a little snub-nosed 2-inch barrel, it's just a 38. Well, this isn't what, when you said 38 Special 50 years ago, this typically isn't what you thought of. This was for convenience. And as good as it is, it's certainly a good gun. But when you said 38 Special 50 years ago, you thought of this, a full-size service revolver of a 4 or even 6-inch barrel. Which, of course, carries more power and is on a larger frame, can handle hotter loads better. And it can go a long way. It really can. But nowadays, when you say 38 special, you think of some little weenie J-frame 5-shot. That's do I really want to? Is this really
here's my opinion on the 38 special. With modern powder and modern bullets, you can get the 38 special to where it uses, when it enters, and there's a lot of these self-defense ammo companies that are doing this. It'll penetrate through like 2 layers of denim or a leather jacket, go into the person, expend all the energy, do all the damage it needs to do, and you don't have to worry about exiting out the back and hitting 2 or 3 other people.
And that's perfect.
Well,
any bullet that could expand its lead in a person or its projectile in its person has got more than enough power to do the job.
All you need is enough energy to tear the insides up. You don't have to. I used to be the 44 Magnum guy and load up 44 specials hot, and I had to have a 500 Smith & Wesson Magnum. But realistically, in a self-defense situation like me, I work Detroit all the time in Flint. I don't want the bullet passing through and hitting 2 or 3 other people, innocent bystanders.
Right. Yeah. And that brings us to another point about the 38 special, how it got a bad reputation even back in the day, simply because of the original common load, the standard lead round nose bullet, 158 grain lead round nose bullet. It just didn't. It was all it did was just kind of zip through people. But as the decades went on, by the time you got to the 1960s, they started coming out with lead hollow point ammunition and blunt. I think it was the 200 grain super police load. It looked like a light bulb in a cartridge. It was a big chunk of lead to do more damage. The semi-wad cutter, and of course, as you got into the 70s and 80s, you got into jacketed and semi-jacketed hollow points, and the list goes on. I mean, it's come along. Ammunition in general, not just the 38, has come a long way in recent decades.
Yep.
And it can do a lot more damage now, and really, a lot of these what I call intermediary cartridges that came out, and they're typically 40 caliber, the 41 Colt, the 41 Magnum, 10 millimeter, 40 Smith & Wesson. They're okay. They're good for what they are, but they were kind of developed and pushed to solve a problem that was eventually solved by improvements on more conventional cartridges, like the 38 Special, the 9 millimeter, the 357 Magnum. The most successful one, of course, is the 40 Smith & Wesson, but even that has begun to kind of slide back as law enforcement goes back to 9 millimeter because ammunition improvement have made it unnecessary, more or less.
Yeah, and that's why the 1911 hung on so long, because 45 in the day of a straight ball round or lead bullet, 45 was always going to get you better terminal ballistics. Things may have changed some today, but I wanted to go back to that 38-44, which is one of the most interesting rounds I have ever studied, and I haven't studied it deeply, but basically it was Smith & Wesson before the registered Magnum coming out with something hotter. So they built a bigger frame gun.
There you
Look at that thing.
And what is funny is Colt saw this round coming to the market, and they said, well, I'll tell you what, our guns will handle it too. And so technically, that's why in these guns, like the official, that's actually Smith & Wesson, but the official police and the police positive are actually somewhat rated for plus P. A lot of people don't know. I wouldn't say they're rated for plus P. It's a thin line to walk, because you don't want to wear the gun out. But they will handle, I believe, moderate amounts of plus P ammo. Wouldn't you say so?
Another thing, too, is 38 Special now is a lot lighter than the 38 Special when it first came out. That was a hotter load. They've downloaded that because of so many old guns that even now the plus P, I don't personally, from shooting 38s for many, many years, I don't believe that the plus P's out now are that much more potent than the original 38 Special.
I've heard that too. I've heard that same argument.
As a matter of fact, I heard that on Classic Guns today. That's what got me started on the 38-44
You can
deal.
find some old advertisements from Colt that will even say you can shoot 38-44 in these.
Mm-hmm.
The official police, that it was rated for this. And, you know, I personally would not shoot. These are the Buffalo bore. Let me see if I can get. These are Buffalo bore lead hollow point plus P rounds, 158 grain. This is about as close to the 357 Magnum as you can get in a 38 special. And the numbers they calculate on their website and post, that's real. I put these through my chronograph, and they are hot. And I wouldn't put them through this pre-war gun necessarily, unless my life depended it. It's just too nice a gun. It's got a lot of wear, but you know, I do put them through my post-war official police, 1961, and even my Smith & Wesson Model 15.
Yep.
38.
Hey, if you're out there, Duke, we got a troll, and for some reason it's not letting me block them. So
Got a troll?
We got a troll. That might be like my second troll ever.
Some guy in the chat who's being a third.
Yeah. Well, guys, I'm trying, but it doesn't let me block it for some reason.
Let me see if I can read the comments and go in.
But anyway, yeah, you can try it too. I got several moderators.
Yeah, I mean,
let's go over here and read the chats anyway.
If you guys have any issues, let me try too. I mean, heck, one of us should be able to kill him.
Oh gosh, let's see that. Yeah.
We got Victor Schultz said it's a good here, and Tommy Gunn said hello from Kazakhstan. Yeah, okay, I can't hardly read from here.
Yeah, it won't let me block him either.
Really?
He must have something going on. Oh well, I'll just ignore him for now. He must have some kind of equipment that does.
Anyway. I can't even click on him.
iPod Walker said 1895 Colt new service, I think. Dads and granddads. Yeah. Two Shots said Colt 38 was my first. It was my backup for Brinks in LA. Yeah, very good. iPod Walker said Ruger SP 101 3-inch and 357. Yeah. My favorite's the GP 101, the GP 100. Sorry guys, I'm tripping all over myself, but yeah, that's right there. It's a nice handy carry gun. And Duke said 1911s are back-to-back World War champions. Glock still not survive a confrontation with a teething puppy.
Speaking of 1911s, when I find the right one, I am going to do a Lone Wolf Gonzalez Fitz special on a 1911 too, because I am just really hooked on these Fitz specials.
Yeah, I got him,
guys.
That's
pretty cool. A little scary though, but that'd be cool.
I think I got him. Anyway, moving on. Trapper Paul, I'm going to Trapper Paul saying hi, Trapper Paul. I haven't seen you for a while. He said it's an automatic troll. You need to put it in subscribers only in chat. It's the same one I saw on the stream the other night. Subscribers only in chat. I've never figured out how to do that. If he comes back, then I'll worry about it. But let's go on. Let's not let him ruin what we got going on. So anyway, kind of happy, kind of proud we got a troll. That means we're growing.
It means you're growing.
I blame.
It means you're doing everything right if you get a troll.
I blame my Fitz fascination on Garrett. Me and him had a conversation talking about revolvers and, you know, the gangster days and that. Somehow we got on the Fitz, and I just got this idea of building a Fitz, and so I did a Smith & Wesson clone Fitz. But then I wasn't happy with that because Fitz only did them on Colts. So then I had to get a Colt to do a Fitz on. And then while researching the Fitz, I found out that Lone Wolfman Gonzalez, Texas Ranger, had two 1911s that were Fitzed with the trigger guard cut off and that. And I was like, well, now I got to do one of them.
Well, maybe you should go back and explain to the audience, because most of them probably know. By the way, guys, we're having between 24 and 30 in here most of the time, so that's doing pretty good. But explain to them who Fitz is and what a Fitz is, and show them what a Fitz looks like.
All right. So Fitzgerald was, and I don't know how he did this because I know my time is limited, but everything I've read, he was a New York cop. He also worked for Colt as a shooter. He would actually shoot competition, and he would help sell their products. And he was taking I think it was the new Army and police positives, and he had really big hands. And from what I understand, he was a bare knuckle fighter, so his hands were, from being broken.
He was a man.
Huge. Well, he found that wearing gloves, he couldn't get his finger in the trigger guard fast, so he started cutting the front of the trigger guard off, bobbing the hammers, and cutting the barrels back to 2 inches, and then rounding the butt of the handle so that he could carry them and pull them fast. And after building one, I truly believe that everything about that, because it is probably one of the most convenient guns to shoot fast as far as with that trigger guard going. But on this, if you look here on this, it's got this nub where the trigger guard used to be, and right there. And I don't like that nub. It wasn't on the ones that Fitz built. So I'm going to do a Colt Fitz on a gun that isn't worth anything. It's a 1892. It's already been cut on and re-blued and all kinds of stuff. So I'm not going to feel bad about it. And then I'll have a Colt Fitz, a Smith & Wesson Fitz, and then I'll need a 1911 Fitz to finish it all off. In the video I do on the Colt Fitz, I'm actually going to, hopefully YouTube's going to let it play, because I'm going to do an educational video, not a how-to, and I'm going to show the whole process of how to do it.
Garza Vlog said, "Oh wait, did he say Lone Wolf Gonzalez?" I think I might have heard of him. Yep,
he was a famous Texas Ranger, and all the research I did on him, he was also very much a glory hog and liked to be the center of attention. And
them are the ones that get things done.
That's true.
But he carried 2 Fitz revolvers with 4-inch barrels for a long time, and then he switched to 1911s, and he carried one on each hip that were the trigger guards were cut off.
At Classic Guns Today had it, as soon as we came on, he was thumbing through a book and he held it up and it had a picture of a Fitz right on the front of it. What was that book?
Yeah, actually, it's called the Snubby by Ed Levette. This was written in 2002, about 20 years ago. And this
I don't have that
book. A picture of a Fitz special.
Yep, I don't have that book. I'm going to have to buy that one.
It's a very good book, very good little book, a very easy read. It's just, he just talks about, he's a big believer in the snub-nosed revolver and the revolver in general, and believes it has plenty of use today. I mean, it's a fundamental weapon that's useful for anybody out there. It's got a lot.
I think a small revolver, small double-action revolver is probably the very best self-defense, at least backup gun if you don't want to carry one, because it's guaranteed no matter what ammo you're running through it, it's going to go off.
Oh, yeah.
And if it don't, you just pull the trigger again.
If it don't, you just pull the trigger again. You're not going to have to sit there and fiddle with magazines and re-racking and.
It's like I try to explain to people, for concealed carry, for self-protection, I personally, this is just my opinion, I don't think I need more than 5 or 6 rounds for self-protection. Now, if I was going into a combat situation or something like that, I would want the Beretta 92 with, 17 rounds in the mag and, yes, the most amount of ammo. But in most situations, like, I've never been robbed working in Detroit, but my baby brother, before he died, he worked in Detroit. He got robbed almost once a week for the entire year he worked in Detroit. And usually it was one person that would walk up behind him, pull a gun on him, and tell him, if you don't have at least $20, you're going to die. And so for most situations, I feel like you're going to have 1 or 2 people. 5 or 6 shots is plenty. I feel more than adequate carrying a snub-nosed revolver. That's just me, though. I mean,
and you talk about you might not even carry one going into a battlefield situation. I'm looking around here for what I did with it.
I think it's. I mean, this is me talking, but a handgun fundamentally is just, whether you're talking about a revolver or a semi-automatic, it's basically a defensive weapon. If you are really, if you're going into a situation where you need 15 rounds or whatever. And I'm not saying you should do a Beretta or a Glock or whatever, but if you're going into a situation where you need this many rounds or whatever, and you're in trouble, you don't want any kind of handgun. You want a carbine, a rifle, or a shotgun. You're
completely agree.
It becomes your backup gun.
Yeah. But as far as what you were just saying about military stuff, I can tell you that the British found this Webley very well suitable for 2 world wars.
That's right.
So, you know, this thing carried almost the same amount of time as the 1911. This is the Webley Mark 6, by the way, and that's because it's just the way it's designed. It's got that fast top break action, loaded with moon clips, you know, and plenty powerful in 45. But I'm not saying you should, but you know, it has been done.
It reminds me too much of a Smith & Wesson, and I kind of prefer the Colt thing. You know?
Okay, I'll tell you what. If that
He's been bit.
Let's go back to it.
I'm waiting for Caleb. I'm waiting for Caleb to step up behind Garrett and give me some hassle for saying that.
Yeah, this one was in war.
Well, Ethan's still gone, so he's the biggest one on the Smith & Wesson side.
A lot of people don't realize this. This dude right here was in battle before the single action army was even thought of. This gun is.
Hey, you watch your mouth, sir.
1868, and it's got a little hand trouble right now. We're working on it, but it is a double action revolver. And, you know, it's actually really carried in the American West. It's a constabulary pistol. You know, they had the Trantor. Had double action revolvers all the way back in the Captain Ball days. They just didn't work out as well as a lot of people would have liked. But
is that one of the pistols that would have been on Custer?
Yeah, this is a Custer. Yeah. Basically, the Custer pistol. This one's the Irish constabulary, but it's the same thing, same caliber.
But let me clarify something, because I'm sitting here talking about that. It's not that I don't like semi-autos. I own 2 Beretta clones. I own 2 1911s. I own a Uzi. I love semi-automatic guns. I love them, but it's just, for me, in a self-defense situation where your stress level is going to be high, your adrenaline's going to be rushing and everything else, a revolver, all I got to do is pull the trigger. There's no, I got to flip the safety off or anything else. It's just, to me, it's just what I prefer, you know?
Yep.
And things can go wrong with a revolver.
Yeah. But I actually, you know, one of my favorite pistols nowadays, I have to say, is a Ruger Security 9 semi-auto. It fits really well. The trigger's better than a Glock, in my opinion, and this is the way it works for me because I'm used to revolvers anyway. But I do love them, and I've had a lot of semi-autos. What gripes me is, like, I went into a gun store one day looking for a very specific gun. I wanted a Ruger GP100 stainless steel with a 6-inch barrel. Very specific gun. I went in and I asked the guy, do you have or could you get Ruger GP100 stainless steel with 6-inch barrel? And the very first thing he said to me was, "You don't want a revolver. We have all these semi-autos." And he showed me the show. My brothers were with me, and we was kind of snickering because they were like, "Man, we own more semi-autos than he had in his whole store." It's like, if you come in and I say, "I want a Ruger GP100 stainless steel with a 6-inch barrel," I'm specifically looking for that gun.
For that gun.
You know, not for something else. But I get what he had a lot of semi-autos and he was trying to sell them, but that's something that's always just kind of turned me off to certain semi-auto people, you know, that they think that if an old-fashioned revolver can't get the job done.
They see it as being mildly inadequate when it's not.
I will find another 1970s Charter Arms Bulldog 44 Special, and I will get it, and then I will feel much better about letting the one I had go.
I did the same thing. Actually in about 2019. I let mine go because I had a few primers, but at that point I was trying to buy ammo because primers were hard to come by, and I was using those for my 45s. So I actually sold my 44 Bulldog, my Charter Arms, and I wish I hadn't, because now I could probably find some primers to load it with. So have you ever been into anything classic guns besides the Colts and Smith & Wessons, or are you pretty well right there and that's where you stayed?
I mean, well, I like the first semi-automatic I got was a 1911 Springfield Armory GI. Back when they had their GI, the GI 45 line. Got it for Christmas one year. Love it. It's a great gun. Shoots well. It's a good. I wear it outside on the lawn tractor, hiking through the woods sometimes. But later I got
Those are
5 years ago.
those are copies of A1s, right?
Yeah, that's correct. Yeah. They got the small GI sights that
Yeah.
everybody hates, but I like. I don't care. I mean,
Yeah.
I like them myself too. I like the original. The oldest setup possible to me is my favorite.
Yeah, I even modified mine with it came with a thin hammer spur, and I replaced it with a matching Parkerized wide hammer spur. It's a little fatter. There's a more for your thumb to grab onto. I think that's how the original 1911s came out. At least the ones that Colt released 20 years ago. They had kind of a fat hammer spur that I really like. I actually
even like it. The trigger area on the originals, like before the A1, wasn't even scalloped as much. I like that better myself. I can't tell you why. I have this weird problem of I want what it originally was first before I want its predecessors.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
That's that's one gun that I grew up on my uncle's original Colt 1911 and shot the living daylights out of that gun. And when I got my first SR Ruger 1911, that's the only time I think I've ever got a modern gun and said, I think they did something a little better than the original. Because I did love that wide beaver tail, and I did love, the skeletonized hammer and the trigger, and I did love that stainless steel, But, I mean, they're both great guns, but I did love that Ruger a little bit more than
the fact that it's still around after 110 years. 111 years says something right there. And still
I grew up watching Magnum PI.
Magnum PI, yep.
I grew up watching Magnum PI, and that was always when I was a kid. I was going to have a 1911. I didn't realize that his was 9mm. I thought it was 45. Hang on a minute. They're doing the fireworks.
Oh, I thought you were just driving around Detroit.
I just thought you were in Detroit. I was like, man, it's really that bad there, huh?
No, not today.
The Series 70, I believe. The Blued Series 70, didn't he?
Yeah.
My wife and I recently got into that Magnum PI. I watched it every now and then as a kid growing up. If my parents would turn it on or whatever, but it just has a great mixture of humor and action and mystery, a little bit of everything. It's just fun to watch. I mean,
but I'm like Garrett,
especially with that beautiful red Ferrari 308. Matter of fact, about 10 years ago, I bought my dad a 308, Ferrari 308, just like that one, because it's what he wanted.
I still say Higgins is the benefactor.
But I'm like Garrett. I like the skeletonized hammer and the beaver tail grip safety and skeletonized trigger and all that. So
some of those things can grow on you. Yeah. They really can. And
have y'all had a look at the new Browning high power, the SA-35, I think it's called, that Springfield Armory just came out with?
I haven't.
I saw that they came out with it, but I haven't looked at it too close. I need to though, because I'm a big fan of high powers. I like them quite a bit.
That's the 1911 is what gave us that. I mean, it's just the same gun pretty much, just in high capacity 9mm.
I like to point out to Ethan, the other guy on the channel who does all the Smith & Wesson stuff, which I probably ought to show some of his stuff. He's got the big boy here, the 44 Magnum 29, and
that's the big boy right there.
He's actually recently got the Model 3 double action. This one's like made in 1880 something.
Oh, nice.
So that's.
I do remember that day. It was much excitement over the phone on that one.
That was actually the first model, number 3, first number, whatever you call it, the one in 44 American we've been looking for so long. It's a single action. But, yeah, I don't know what you're talking about. But, anyway, I was just going to say, I lost my train of thought. But, lost my train of thought. So, go ahead, guys.
You're talking about the number 3?
Yeah.
Ethan.
I was talking about
Guns of Ethan. Guns of the Ethan.
Guns of Ethan, yeah, the Model 29 and that, and his pocket safety, pocket hammerless in 38. Ooh. And eat your heart out, Duke. There's the pocket safety hammerless in 32.
A pocket safety hammerless. Nice.
And I was just going to grab these because we're going through, and I don't want to forget that I have them here because I did bring them on over. There's the not pocket safety hammerless, but same gun basically, but in 38. Oh, this is one of my favorite double actions, and this is an old one. This is the pinfire.
Oh, yeah.
This thing, in the 1850s, and you can dry fire pinfire because you can't hurt the firing pin. But in the 1850s,
just looking at that, I feel like it's going to break just by my having looked
Right.
at it. It's so
You like
fragile
that
and
trigger?
frail. Like,
trigger flopping around. But yeah,
yeah.
I like to point this out that double actions have been around almost as long as the single actions. I mean, really close to almost.
But Colt came out with the first swing out cylinders.
Yes, that's where I wanted you to go. 1889. Take us there.
All right. I don't know how good the light's going to be, but this is mine. I love this gun. This is probably my favorite Colt. Let's see if I can. There we go. This is an 1889. I originally bought it, and the guy said it was an 1892. And it turns out that it is every single part has the same exact assembly number. It's 25,000 of only 30,000 made, but this is something I didn't know until I started talking to Garrett and them, that that gun went on past 1892, that model. So that one was made in 1893. The frame is cut out with the bolt notch to lock the cylinder, even though the cylinder doesn't have the notches. Right. And it's all the assembly numbers are the same on the frame, on the crane, on the cylinder, even on the hammer as an assembly number, on the latch for it's all numbers matching. So they must literally, like Garrett was telling me, take parts from all kinds of guns in different years. And I got one that was towards the very end of the 1889s.
Mm-hmm. Real quick, kind of neat thing that you can do with the cylinder on one of those. I believe it was 1912. The Colt Single Action Army had what was called the long flute. See the length of the flutes on this cylinder. They come to about there. Now, if you look at if you look at this, you see how the flutes are way, way longer?
Yep.
So that's the same thing as your double action there. You can actually do the same size cylinder for the Single Action Army. They took the cylinders off your double action, and then they cut notches in them so you can make a long flute. Quite a few people do that for fun. I actually kind of want to find an extra cylinder to do that myself, because they only made a long flute Single Action Army for 1 year. But and they're quite rare and quite expensive. But if you want to replicate one, you just take the double action cylinder and have the notches cut in it, and then you have the long flute.
My 1889 out. It's about 85% finished perfect, as far as there's a little spot where the nickels wore off on the bottom of the handle of the frame, and then there's one spot on the cylinder where you can see it must have been holster wear, where the nickel is worn down. Other than that, the thing it's so perfect. And I found out everybody I've talked to believes that thing came from the factory nickel, because it is a civilian model, not a military model. It doesn't have the lanyard ring. And everybody that's looked at it said that gun looks like it's never been taken apart. Not one screw in that thing has any deformation on the head or nothing. When they look down the side of the frame and the plate, the barrel and that, they say it doesn't look like it's ever been polished. Every number is, just perfectly legible on it. The writing on the barrel's perfectly legible. Everybody that's looked at it, gunsmith wise and that, said they're 95% positive that gun came nickeled. Mm-hmm. So I just don't want to mess with it. It's just
too nice to mess with.
It looks sharp. I like it.
It is a very good looking gun. I remember when you got it going, wow, whoever did the nickel job did good.
Yeah.
Realizing that's probably an original nickel job.
Yeah, I don't think it's been shot much either, because the timing is not off. If you cock the hammer, when that trigger's pulled all the way back, that cylinder locks up like a bank vault. There's no play or nothing in it. It just free spins when, like when you pull it out of the holster.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Is that the one you had trouble with? You had trouble with one of those, didn't you?
It was the 1944 one. I had to set the cylinder and slide years ago. It used to have trouble throwing by, and what that means is when you pull the trigger, fast enough or even slow enough, depending on how wore it is, if this bolt head is worn out, it will start throwing by on one or all of the notches. And finally, these notches are kind of worn. So this gun has seen a lot of use and abuse over the years before it got to me, and even after it got to me a little bit before I wised up on certain things. But anyway, it's doing pretty good now. I've replaced the bolt spring in it a few times, worked with it some, and it's working fine now. It's so far, knock on wood, no problems. But
good.
But yeah, just like you were saying, it's that bank lock vault. I mean, I can't. There's no play in there at all trying to turn it. As long as
you didn't Mickey Spillane it, did you? Let me see if I can find one. Oh, let's do it with this one. Ethan's not watching, so you take your gun and you spin the cylinder and
then you whack it closed.
Oh God!
I've seen people do that, and actually, I picked this up just making fun of Ethan one time. Ethan just first got this. And I did that. I spun that cylinder. I started to do it. He thought I was going to do it, and he about fell apart.
You know,
I've seen it done at a gun store on a modern gun where somebody picked it up and then like clack, and then the guy behind the counter's like, "Oh,
one of the absolute worst things that drives me insane is to see somebody take a Smith & Wesson Model 3 Schofield, even a replica, but especially originals, and they'll pop it and they will flip it forward to eject the shells harder and then slam it back into position. I'm like, oh my, hurts me even. And they'll do that with originals.
I'm gonna apologize
movies,
right
man.
now.
I think it's the movies.
I'm gonna apologize right now because when I was 21 years old, like the day after I turned 21 and I could go buy that Bulldog, I went and bought that Bulldog, and the first thing I did was spun the cylinder and snapped it shut because I thought it looked cool.
That's how.
And I did it many times after that.
Yep.
Before I knew how bad it was to do that to a gun, you know.
Yeah, I'm gonna jump over.
It shows the quality. Real quick, it does show the quality of the gun that you could do that a lot. I mean, it wears it out, but it doesn't kill it. That's a pretty good sign of quality. That you think that would murder the gun quickly.
I don't know. I don't like it.
Yeah, it actually kind of gives me the heebie-jeebies just thinking about it.
I'll go over here because I had some questions. Chopper 505 said, "What about the Webley double action semi-auto?" Yes, I have a funny story about that because it was Maltese Falcon, I believe. It was either that or the Big Sleep. I think it was Maltese Falcon, where I was probably 14, 15 years old. I loved that movie, and I'd watch Humphrey Bogart. There's a 45 automatic revolver, she holds 8 shots, but she was wrong. It was actually a 38 that held the 8 shots. But he says it's an automatic revolver, and little 14, 15-year-old me, he don't know nothing. I know more than this guy. There's no such thing as an automatic revolver. And then as I got older, of course, I did realize that, yes, that gun existed, and it's an automatic revolver.
Is that the one with the little Z on the side of the?
Well, it does. It does, but the frame works like a slide.
Yeah, the flame moves back and forth, and there's like a slot in the cylinder that makes it once it recoils.
There are zigzag Colts from the 1800s, but they were single action. They just work differently. But this one's a complete. Right. And I can tell that Classic Guns has something to say on this subject. I can tell.
Yes, because I want one of those. I saw pictures of those, and I was like, "That's got to be the coolest revolver I've ever seen."
Well, one of the times that brought it to my attention that it was real was probably a couple of years after that, 18 or 19 years old. I read a news article about a guy who took one of those from his dad's collection and went and robbed $20 from a convenience store with it. It went to jail, and the gun went into a police evidence locker. It was like, you realize you had in your hand upwards of $75,000, probably $1,000 in your hand at the time. You went and stole $20, and I thought that was pretty hilarious.
Garrett, just telling that story makes me think of the time I got my hands on a real Smith & Wesson. I'm not sure what number it was. It was the 44 that flipped open like that. And I was like 17, 18 years old. I had no clue what it was. It was just big and ugly. I didn't like the way the barrel flipped down in that. And I traded it for a 38 Derringer, I believe it was.
Oh God!
Oh my goodness!
I remember you
Original-
telling me that story. I was like, oh
That's
God.
sad because my brothers and I have just went through a 2-year search for one of those that we could afford.
Yep.
An original.
And the bad
first
part
model.
of the bad part, but you want to talk, Smith & Wesson did produce some quality guns, because we were taking a grinder and grinding the tip of the bullet down so we could stick 44 mags in the cylinder, and we fired off a full cylinder full like that. And it held
Oh,
together.
in a top break?
And it's,
Now, in defense, they were probably the lightest target load 44 mag you could find, because I was poor back then. But we didn't realize that. I didn't have the gun that long, that it was actually 44 Smith & Wesson. We just figured it was 44 mag, and we couldn't figure out why the shells wouldn't fit, so we made them fit.
Well, luckily, by cutting the end of that bullet off, you cut about 200 grains off of it. So it wouldn't...
it probably would keep it together.
Almost, the bullets looked like a wad cutter. It was almost cut down to the brass to get them to fit.
Yeah.
Wow.
iPod Walker said Smith & Wesson Model 68 Highway Patrol and 38 Special. Yeah. We're roll down here. Soylent Green's in, and we love it when Soylent shows up because he's
I love that.
knowledge, wealth of knowledge. He said, I was selling a Uberti El Patron, and the guy at the gun counter was making sure it was clear. He spun the cylinder, and I just about lunged at him, but I was selling it, so I kept quiet. Oh, yeah, he spun it, and yeah. I love
that. I love that name, Soylent Green, and I've got a sub on my channel that's named DB Cooper, and every time I see his name, I just love it.
That's funny.
When we first started these chats, we had Jeffrey Davis, George Washington, and Bannister Tarleton here every time, and I wish I knew what happened to those guys because those were
I think Jeffrey Davis still pops in and out quite a bit. I actually think I finally realized who it was. He's a watcher on Dustin's channel.
Mm-hmm.
I think his son was the one that got to play with my 49 pocket model.
Oh,
I'm pretty sure that's He took that little kid and let him see the 49 pocket model, and they compared them. I'm pretty sure that little kid's father is the president, Jeffrey Davis.
Diane Houston said, do you prefer the 5-inch or a 7-inch barrel in Schofield? I was thinking about getting the 5-inch in Uberti. Actually, I've only shot a Schofield, and I've only shot replicas because they're hard to get originals. And I love the 7.5-inch, I believe it's 7.5-inch barrel there. But we have shot some originals, Model 3s with 5-inch barrels and even shorter. And, it all depends on what you want to do. If you want to carry it a lot, by all means, that 5-inch is wonderful. If you want to hit a little better, should I say, that longer
I wish
barrel,
I'd have known you when I had that one that I got, because I'd love for somebody that would have appreciated it, get it. Because if I'm not mistaken, the guy I traded it to cut the barrel down and made a snub nose out of it.
I like the 7.5-inch models of
that's
everything.
Okay. Snapper is a saver of 1851 Navy originals that have been turned into lamps.
That is true. I have brought more 51 Navies back to life than I care to. Well, I'm actually proud of that fact. I brought in a lot of 51 Navies back to life. One was a lamp. One was completely blown to smithereens. And I have. It's back here. It's my 51 Navy that was a cartridge conversion. It's the original Colt cartridge conversion. So it was 38 Colt.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? So, and it was the barrel was lined to 357, probably sometimes in the 70s is kind of what we were guessing. And somebody, because it's a straight through cylinder, it wasn't stepped. Somebody put a 357 Magnum in it, blew it completely to smithereens.
That's sad. Let's get back on the topic at hand. We're wandering a little bit.
But it is a shootable gun again. It's just missing a lot of its original parts.
It's behind you, isn't it?
Yeah, it's right here. This little girl right here. Most of the part of the gun that's original is the barrel's all original. The ejector's all original. Most of the frame from about here to here is original. A lot of this has been welded back in. The back plate is a Uberti back plate because it didn't come with the back plate. The cylinder is a Uberti cylinder. And the grips, they're original. Mm-hmm. But I'm telling you, like, this entire frame was bent, like massive bent down. And there was nothing left of the original cylinder.
Wow.
Completely destroyed that little gun.
That's why you
But-
don't put 357 Magnum in a 38 special, guys.
That's exactly why you don't do that.
An open top 38
Well,
special.
Yeah, especially an open top.
That Spanish Smith & Wesson clone that I made a Fitz out of, I
Mhm.
demonstrated that in the video. People talk about how poor quality them Spanish revolvers are.
Mhm.
And I think a lot of times, because you can chamber a 357 Magnum in that thing and it's the
Mhm.
cylinder's long enough and everything, I think a lot of people have blown them things up, sticking the wrong shells in them, and that's how they got the bad reputation.
That's very likely. That is very
My
likely.
other 51 Navy here was turned into a lamp.
That's the
It's
lamp.
either
gun.
this one or the other one.
Yeah.
I don't remember if this was this one or the other one. Somebody had drilled into the barrel like about an inch and a half, threaded it for a light bulb, and then on the forcing cone, cut a nice big U in it so the cable could come out so they could plug it up, and it was made into a pretty little lamp.
It's
I don't
Why do I
think
feel
it was
like
this one. I can't remember if it was this one or the other one.
What'd you say,
What's that?
Classic Guns?
I said, why do I feel like watching the Christmas Story right now, having heard that?
All right.
Exactly. Yeah.
Lamp gun.
I was
But you got to
bringing that.
realize in the 1930s and
Fragile, it
40s,
must
these
be
things were
Italian. Well, yeah, it's
nothing.
Really.
Yeah, during the 1930s and 40s, these things were nothing. And a matter of fact, I don't remember if it's this one or the other one, but the one that was made into the lamp was actually the one in the best shape because all those years it stayed in decent shape because it was a lamp.
It's a common thing, and I bring it up because I get to. This is not the Model 3. This is a double action Model 3 Smith & Wesson, the old one, 1880s. This is the second one we have because the first one we got, ordered it online, and when it did get here, it had been made into a lamp also. They just drill out all the rifling, drill a big hole in the side of the for the wire in the side of the barrel. And so, yeah, it had all its parts, though, so we had a good parts gun, but we did have to get a second double action Model 3. But let's go back into, okay, I'm going to read over here just a little bit. Soylent Green said, I have a Uberti 5-inch Schofield. I hope I can find a Model 3 American one day in 44 Russian. Yeah, we just finally got our Model 3 American in 44 American that we've been looking for so long. It finally showed up. It was a great day.
I am glad that finally came in. That's a beautiful gun, too.
The only double action Soylent's owned has been a 1965 Colt Python. Had it for a couple of years and never fired it because I couldn't find ammo. It was during the pandemic, so I sold it off for mint. Paid dog vet bills and got an M1D sniper from CMP with a repro scope and a leather cheek rest. Yeah. Hey, yeah, I need to get into that. Is it worth the money, in your opinion? Classic Guns. Is it worth it?
Again?
You think that gun is worth the money, in your opinion?
Python, at this point,
Aren't they making them again?
if I were looking for one for in this day and age, I probably would not want to pay $3,000 for a gun. That's just me. That's just I'm a collector, but I don't know. That's just I got
A fairly new gun at that price is a lot.
$725 about 12 years ago.
I'll give you 900 right now.
Hey, Garrett, did you ever get your detective special yet?
No.
I love
Go ahead. Sorry.
Go ahead.
I love carrying this gun, shooting, carrying in the woods, but a gun that's
scared?
now worth $4,000. I don't know.
Here's the thing.
To me, a gun is a gun is a gun. They're made to be shot. They're made to be carried. But
Right. To me, high value guns have to be old. Personally, I'm not a huge fan of paying a lot of money for newer guns.
I would like to get that in the Lawman with the has just your fixed sights and which it's basically, I don't know if it's the same gun or not. I need to study it. I think it's got some more MIM parts in it, but I'd like it in the Lawman because this is where, as a Colt fan, I get left out in the cold because the Model 10 became this, which is like the Model 13, and then the several other models for Smith & Wesson, and you can get these for $300, and it's and the Model 13 is such an excellent gun. What's that? Is that the Model 60?
That's the Model 15.
Model 15, yeah. And so there's such an excellent gun, and I would love to have a Colt gun. I could go out there and tell Ethan, well, this is this, but I can't afford to drop $3,000 on a Python.
Yeah, I got this for like $275 just about 10 years ago at a gun show. It's got a lot of holster wear. It's got a little bit of cylinder and even some crane in shake. but it still shoots reliably. One day I want to have it tightened up, but yeah, these K-frame 38s you can get for very little, and they're very affordable now on the used market, and they're very reliable. And even if they do have a little bit of wear, there are still competent gunsmiths out there that know how to handle them. In fact, as far as Colts go, I love Colts, but you have to be very, very careful who you let work on them these days. I mean, there are very people who know how to handle them. And I don't know if you've ever come across this book, or maybe you have this. I don't know. This is a.
I own that. That book. They make it in almost every major model. That same exact person. I love his books. I've got 4 of his books. I don't have that one, but I have 4 of his books. They all look the same except for the model of the gun is on the cylinder or the frame. They're great.
How you pronounce his name? Colt Double Action Revolvers, Volume 1, and it's a very detailed book. It's for a gunsmith. I mean, I'm not a gunsmith, but it just helps you understand a little bit more about what you're dealing with, and you can do certain fundamental things. It tells you how to properly take the gun apart without damaging anything. You as just a regular guy, without being a gunsmith, you can replace the mainspring and certain other springs if you kind of understand what you're doing. Now, I wouldn't dare try to time any of these guns myself, but it's just a wealth of information. Helps a lot.
Is that volume 1?
Volume 1, yes.
Okay, what volume is yours, Snapper?
I have the single action army version. That's volume 1, 2, and I think there's a 3rd volume now.
See, I've never cracked that book open, but I feel like I know it front to back.
Yes, one for Smith and Wesson too.
Yeah, at least in the single
what's
action
amazing
army
about
one.
his books on the single action army, right? It tells you how to gauge everything. It tells you how to, if you need to repair the notches on the hands or on your hammer, it tells you exactly how to weld it, where to weld it, how to cut it, what degrees to cut it to. I mean, you can use that book to completely make a single action army from the ground up.
It's very useful. I mean, it's a wealth of information.
And then my favorite part is he added not just the Colts, but he did the Ubertis, the Piettas. He added all of them there, the 1st, 2nd, 3rd generation Colts with all the different versions. Any single action army that was in his book is covered, and all their measurements.
Yeah, I've got that.
It blew my mind how good it is.
Yeah.
I love that book.
Yeah.
Classic Guns, you can probably tell me on yours, but I know my Detective Special, and I paid more for that 1956 gun than I've paid for any of my brand new Ubertis. But as far as a double action revolver goes, that thing is the smoothest shoot, trigger and hammer. I mean, it's not the lightest, but it is the smoothest, nicest shooting revolver I own.
Yeah, they are,
and that's why I'm stuck on them Colts, man.
I mean, now I've never had the actual Detective Special myself, but like he was saying, I didn't get the one I was going to get when we were talking about it. But I have spent a lot of time behind the Police Positive, which is just basically the full-length version of that gun, basically, of that gun. And they're just actually the Python that he was just showing has the same action setup as the Police Positive, the old Police Positive,
or official police, actually.
Yeah.
I will have a Police Positive before too long.
Yeah.
The Police Positive to me is probably one of the best looking double action revolvers ever made.
See, the one he's got in his
1877,
hand,
obviously.
the one he's got in his hand is the Official Police. But like I said, I spent a lot of time with the Official Police is slightly bigger framed, I believe, than the Detective Special.
Yeah, this is built on this is a D frame, and this is a wait a minute.
I frame.
I-frame. Thank you.
Yeah, I-frame. And the frames for Colt and Smith and Wesson are not the same. So,
right.
I just love that beautiful grip.
This is a K frame.
Or, you know what? Actually, that might be the E frame, which is the same size as the I frame, because the 1889 and the 92 were I frames.
I think you're right. Yeah, the E and I frame are basically identical sizes. I think it's when they started going to in the 70s when Colt started going to the Lawman and the Trooper Mark III, and those. They're trying to update the internal parts to be a little more.
It's hand colored. It's up on top. And it's
like
just
these
Colt.
are.
Well,
It's the
I
main thing.
thought the difference between the
All my
I-frame and
books
the
are up next
E-frame
to the router.
was the I-frames all turned counterclockwise like the Smith & Wesson. Then when they discontinued the I-frame, they came out with the E-frame, which spun clockwise. Same exact frame. It's just the I-frame spins counterclockwise, the E-frame spins clockwise.
So yeah, you're talking the I-frame is pre-1900 then.
Yep.
Right?
Okay, I wasn't aware of that.
That's what I was told.
I'll give you a little rundown on it. I won't go deep into the history, but obviously you all know Richard's Mason conversion. Mason, the guy who was working for Colt clear back in the 1860s, he left Colt, goes to Winchester, and designs basically what is going to be the 1889, the first swing out cylinder. Winchester almost puts it out on the market. Colt and Winchester have a thing going together where they decide, Colt won't make a rifle, Winchester won't make a revolver. Colt basically gets that, and it becomes the 1889, what he just had in his hand there, which is the first swing out cylinder. Technically, I guess you call it a Winchester design, technically. But what happened was the cylinder does not have the 3 locking points like a Smith & Wesson. Colt's only lock in the crane and they lock in the back. Smith & Wesson also locks up on the front of the ejector rod. And so Smith & Wesson starts their double actions all spin counterclockwise, which works fine with their gun with the 3 lockup system because it pushes against 3 different locks. When Colt started doing it with only 2 locks, they started pushing the crane away from the frame. And so they did that just for a few years, like he's saying in the I-frame. And then they went, when their military contracts allowed, they started going back to clockwise so they could get away with only having 2 locking systems and not pushing the crane away from the frame of the gun. So there are the very first, a lot of the very first swing out cylinder Colt guns will spin
counterclockwise.
I just learned something new then.
And so, yeah.
The only reason I know is because when I bought that 1889, I had absolutely no knowledge at all about it. And I dug deep for like 2 months into literally every single piece of information I could find on it. I think I spent probably 100 hours on the internet trying to find out everything I could find out. And that's what I figured out. And then talking to other people.
What I found interesting about that 1889 you have is I was doing some deep dive into Haven and Belden on it for him, and I came across a patent for a speed loader in 1889, and it is almost identical to the speed loaders that you would see like a Safariland today. I think it was wooden, but they are very, very interesting. Yeah, it looks a lot like that. But it's which one's the twist top? Not Safariland. The twist top is yeah. It's just like that twist top. I mean, I'm sure it's not the exact same, but it looks just like it. And so they had that just as soon as swing out cylinders came out, they had speed loaders that would go with them.
And a lot of people badmouth revolvers as being slow to reload. If you know what you're doing, if you're well practiced, you can handle a speed loader like that. And they're very.
Jerry Michalak, when he set his world record.
Sorry,
Jerry Michalak. You ever watch him reload on that world record shot he did in the '90s? It was like. It's like, oh my God, he didn't even move.
He's back in action. It's amazing.
Yeah, was still that's probably the fastest reload I've ever even seen, even if it was a magazine reload.
Yeah. It can definitely be done. Revolvers, I gotta admit, they are in certain situations, yes, they're outclassed today. But that doesn't mean for you and me, and I've said this in a video before where I had people coming down on me about revolvers and why I didn't have more semi-autos on the channel. And a guy actually said, you're not supporting the Second Amendment because you're not out there making videos on every new gun that comes out and getting people to move past the old guns and into the. And that was when I made the video where I said, they don't know my situation or your situation or anybody else's. It's situational what you do. Yeah. See, look, you see how fast he just loaded that? That was fast.
I dropped one too. So.
Yeah.
But you know what? Though? There's 100,000 channels out there doing every new gun, every new model AR, every new model semi-automatic. There's very few channels that are doing the old guns. like classic guns, like you, like Snapper, and that's why I watch you guys the most, because that's just what I'm into. But I mean, there's very few channels now that are talking about old single actions or early double actions, and I don't know. So there's enough people doing all the semi-autos now. I don't feel the need to do a ton of semi-auto videos. There's just a million people doing them, you know.
Mm-hmm.
My personal thoughts on the Second Amendment and how we should be treating it is everybody is different. Everybody has their own things that they like. If we did no anti-guns or no revolvers, you're going to be leaving people out. Mm-hmm. There are going to be people who still don't want an AR, who do not want an AK, who do not want a Glock, who do not want some polymer gun. So in the overall grand theme, we're celebrating the history of these firearms, but also including the people who don't want a lot of those modern guns. And to pretend like any of these guns are really that much outclassed is ridiculous. Yep. Because anybody with the oldest gun in history with training will do better than somebody that is brand new in gunning with no training. Mm-hmm.
I've never met a gun. I've never met a gun that I didn't like, other than High Point. I'm not a big fan of High Points, but I mean, to each their own. But I mean, I like everything. I have a Uzi, I have an AK, mm-hmm. I have three ARs, I have two SKSs, I have, you name it, I have a variety of guns. And I love every gun, and I do videos on all kinds of guns. I've done them on 1911s, but my heart is with snub nose double action revolvers and single action Colt pistols. That's just where that's my love, you know.
I've seen it.
To think that single actions would be so done, I guarantee you somebody who is does SAS all the time went up against somebody who just bought, in the ghetto, who just bought some really crappy little pistol thinking he's going to go rob. I guarantee somebody with a single action could probably still outdo that person with some modern Glock.
It doesn't even necessarily matter about that, because I think about it like this. There's only two industries I know that, to an extent, absolutely hate it when people go into their history, and that is firearms and country music. You can find, I was thinking about this the other day, you could find a modern jazz lover, and you will not find a modern jazz lover that says, I love this jazz done this way, but I hate B.B. King. I'm not going to go back and listen to B.B. King. You cannot, you couldn't find anybody like that. You can find a lot of people who will listen to a country music singer today, but won't even touch Hank Williams Sr.
Now, see, I'm a Merle Haggard and B.B. King and Howlin' Wolf. I like old blues. I like old bluegrass.
And that's the thing. Everything has a history. It's just there's certain industries that tend to
shy away from those histories.
And the thing I love about double action revolvers, and in an extent, it goes all the way back to flintlocks. And I've been shooting a lot of flintlocks here lately because caps are hard to find. But when you load a muzzle loader, cap lock or flintlock, you spend more time with the gun. You know the gun. You know the load. When you spend more time loading and unloading a revolver, or even a double action or a single action, once again, you're spending more time with the equipment itself. And that's what I enjoy personally,
Hey, man.
And my guns that I carry when I'm out in the woods and stuff like that, I carry two single actions. I carry that Hand to God copy that I made, and I carry that 1851 Navy 45 Colt conversion. Them are my probably two of my favorite guns. My 72 open top is my favorite of all. But I carry 45 Colts with Plowboy's load in it, and no matter what I run into on this planet, if I needed it, I have no doubt it would stop it.
I wish I'd have got him tonight. I didn't ask him, but he just now got into a Colt Anaconda. And
that's right, he did.
Really
I forgot about that. I just watched the video.
His thoughts on that, because I'd love one of those too. Let's go over here. Chopper, Unspecified Podcast and Review said, very true. I think he's what we were talking about a little bit ago. Chopper 505 said, fast is fine, but accuracy is final. Very good.
Not placement is what counts.
I actually found all you guys through Plowboy's Ghost. That was the very first single action revolver channel I found when I first started getting on YouTube, was Plowboy's Ghost.
I think the first Plowboy's Ghost video I saw was one where he had just doctored up a converted a 44 1851 Navy Birdie or Pieta, and he'd done it himself, I think, and it's converted it to 45 Colt and was testing it out. He's just done one after the other. I enjoy him.
One of my favorite videos. He's out there in the freezing cold in that long gray coat and that big black hat, and he's shooting them cans with that gun. That is absolutely that's one of my favorite Plowboy videos. Is when he did that conversion. Hey,
Plowboy, good old Plowboy.
I don't have a favorite Plowboy video. I love them all.
Yeah.
I was shocked when he did the 10mm semi-automatic video. I just like, this is not a Plowboy video. This is a joke, right?
I don't think I even saw it.
Yeah,
he didn't have that
the
gun.
Only video I haven't watched.
he didn't have that. He only had that gun maybe 2 weeks before he traded it, and I was like, "Yep, that's Plowboy."
I saw the video where he traded it, and I felt like the universe had been rightened again.
That's what I thought too.
Soylent Green said HR Funk does mod. Yes, I know. I'd like to get him on the show someday. Modern police qualifications with videos and old guns, fun to watch. And Christopher Mead said some people say the 1911 is outdated and antiquated, and that to me is funny. Yeah. I
think that's funny because there's not that much of a difference between a 1911 and whatever you have today.
It's just more
the newest of the newest.
My 10mm 1911 is probably one of my most accurate pistols I have, and I love that gun. That was 80% that I milled it all myself and built that gun. I engraved the numbers and registered it and everything, and I'm a huge 1911 fan. And 10mm 10mm automatic is my favorite semi-automatic cartridge. And I love that gun. That's one I'll never get rid of. It'll be passed on to one of my grandkids.
Yeah.
10mm is something I want to get into.
I got a question for you guys. I assume that since we're all into these double action revolvers, we've got to all be at least partially film noir fans to an extent. So what would you guys say? I'll start with you, Classic Guns Today. When you think about these double action revolvers, what movie or TV show comes to mind automatically that you're like, that's my gun, my show, what is it?
Oh boy. I'm a big movie buff, big time movie buff, old movies too, especially. You want a list?
Just off the top of your head.
Let's go. Treasure of the Sierra Madre, the Untouchables, Dirty Harry, The Big Sleep,
the Bogart version, right?
The Bogart movies, the Cagney movies, those all those. Black and white, modern color. I'm a big movie buff. I'm sitting in front of any movie. I see a gun. I can usually spot what kind of revolver that is, or what year model, what generation detective special that is.
Sorry, guys. Fire department. I guess it was burning down. What's that? Oh, you caught that? You caught that?
Yeah.
Wow. You're the first person that's ever said that.
I do believe that was Castlevania 4, Super Castlevania for the Nintendo, if I remember right.
Simon's, turn here.
It's like, oh my God, we all grew up at the same time, it feels like.
I got the Model 4, or the Model 4, the number 4 poster up there above my TV. That's my
matter of fact, he wanted
over there. But yeah.
What gun was that you want to do a Transylvania theme on?
No, it's Castlevania, not Transylvania.
Castlevania. Yeah, my bad.
That was a Heritage Rough Rider, a long barrel pistol up there, but
that's right.
That's a different conversation for a different day. We will lose our audience if we go into that, I'm afraid.
Yeah, I think so too. I don't know.
But yeah, anyway, you guys don't know like original Nintendo and Super Nintendo. I better actually, guys, go ahead. That's a fire department.
So anyway, let's see. All right, well, so let's go to the next one. There, UA American. What would be your favorite movie of
the first one that comes to mind is the old black and white Bonnie and Clyde, And then after
Ooh.
that, any black and white gangster movie pretty much has they have Colt Detective Specials, Police Positives. I love them all. But the very first movie that comes to mind when I think of old double action guns is Bonnie and Clyde.
Warren Beatty, Faye Dunaway.
What's that?
The one with Warren Beatty and Faye Dunaway.
I don't know the actors that were in it. I grew up watching Westerns mostly, but we used to watch some old gangster movies now and then,
Yeah, the Bonnie and Clyde one was made in, I think, 68 or 69. It was one of Warren Beatty and Faye Dunaway. I think Denver Powell played Frank Hamer.
Yeah, that's the one. That's the one I'm thinking of.
Smith and Wesson's in it. Smith and Wesson pre-Model 10s, and I think he had a Colt.
Yeah, I gotta say, I love that movie. That is the worst version of Frank Hamer they ever put in a movie.
Highwayman?
But that's always the first movie that comes to mind when I think of snub noses and gangsters and stuff like that. Is Bonnie and Clyde.
Yeah. Oh, sorry, I didn't mean to pick on your movie. That was just what came to my mind was that Frank Hamer. You think they really?
Highwayman.
I think his wife was.
I am probably the biggest Clint Eastwood fan you've probably ever met. That is one person I would like to meet in person before he dies. I grew up idolizing Clint Eastwood, but I did watch a lot of black and white gangster movies too. So
yeah.
Do you know he was in a weird incident? He was in this really weird incident that almost killed him back in the 50s or 60s. Right before he got into movies, he got drafted to go to Korea, and he never got to Korea. He actually ended up being a lifeguard at the base there. And it was sometime around Christmas, I want to say it was, or a holiday. He was trying to get somewhere. And the plane flights basically couldn't get him there, but he actually went up to this guy who was flying like a fighter plane and convinced him to let him stash himself in the back where the cargo, like a little bit where the radio cargo area was. He crawls in there and the freaking plane crashes into the ocean. And he ends up, barely living through the whole ordeal, floating back to the shore. And I don't remember if the pilot was saved as well, but yeah, really crazy story where he almost died.
Wow.
I'm still just tickled that he knew that was Castlevania music. I didn't think anybody else in the gun community knew what that was. But anyway, I'll give you a little Clint Eastwood trivia. Can anybody tell you what the first movie he was ever in was? Anybody tell me?
It was a sci-fi movie, a sci-fi horror movie, if I remember right. And
Universal.
Wasn't he a pilot? It was some giant bird or something.
No, he was a laboratory assistant for like a second, and then he was gone.
Oh, yeah. Creature from the Black Lagoon, Part 3 or something like that.
2, Revenge of the Creature. 2.
Yeah. I remember it was one of those 50s sci-fi movies.
It's one of them you can't hardly watch. You watch it just to see that 5 seconds when Clint Eastwood's in, and then he's gone.
I liked all the Dirty Harry movies, but every time I think of Clint Eastwood, I think of The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly, The Man with No Name carrying the 51 Navy conversion. Yep. And I have one of them guns, and it's on another one of my ones that'll be passed on down to the grandkids,
Here's kind of a film noir / sci-fi double action revolver scene that I've always really appreciated. Have y'all ever seen the science fiction movie Them from, I think, 1954?
Is it the ants? Yeah, okay.
Oh, yeah. The really big ants.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It starts out, the first 30 minutes of it is basically like an X-Files episode. It's kind of a mystery. But anyway, the state police in that are all carrying official polices. And back then in movies, generally, the police were kind of the guardians of everything. I mean, once the police showed up, you knew you were in good shape. Everything was fine. They'll take care of it. Well, there's a great scene in the movie where the state police are happening upon all these different odd crime scenes where buildings are torn apart and people are dead or missing. Well, one has to leave his partner behind at the crime scene, and they hear this strange sound. It's in the middle. It's at nighttime. It's during a sandstorm, and the cop draws his .38, makes his way outside carefully, stealthily. I mean, he's got to investigate this. He walks outside, walks out of sight, and all you hear is all 6 shots from his revolver go off, followed by him screaming. And whatever this was, it wasn't impressed by a cop or his gun. He fades away to the next scene. It's just very well done scene. It just
Yeah,
That's one of those where what you don't see is the best parts because it's so
Exactly.
I like
because
those
they
kinds of
could not have
movies
made
where
it look good.
Yeah.
that's something John Carpenter learned very well.
it's the inclined fear that gets you, not what it actually is.
Exactly.
Because your mind always makes things out worse than what it
Yep.
actually is.
Sure. Yeah.
Did we
the
hear
original
Snap?
version of the Thing did that very well too.
Yeah.
I don't have a
Dark
good
lighting.
answer for you, buddy, because I don't. Every time I actually go into double actions in movies, it's not that far back.
Yeah.
Like that I actually really, really like. Like, for instance, Young Guns.
Yeah. The double actions
No,
that should not be in Young Guns.
Yeah.
There are
Well,
so
I mean,
many
it's
Smith & Wesson Model 10s in that movie if you look really closely.
Right. That, I would say probably like Dirty Harry would be the classic cop movie. Oh man, I really don't have a good answer for you. I just did not watch a lot of movies when I was growing up.
I'll tell
I
you
got steered into, especially older movies. I was stuck on the new movies, which mostly sucked.
The quintessential Python, the star, the biggest movie the Python was ever in to me, maybe until The Walking Dead came along, maybe not, was the Clint Eastwood movie, Dirty Harry movie, Magnum Force.
Magnum Force. Yep.
Everybody, all the bad cops in that movie carried this. The motorcycle guys, they were, and it was, you got right up close and personal shots of the Python was the villain of that movie.
That sadly was the movie
Those
where
are
we
some
found out.
very,
The other
very high, wealthy bad guys.
Well, they were
The
cops.
The other one too that I always think of, and it was the movie that actually made me want to get the Bulldog. I think it was called Manhunter, and the character in that was the same guy that played in one of them CSI movies or some, series or whatever. But he carried a Bulldog 44. I think it was like the prequel to the Silence of the Lambs or something, But it was back, I want to say, in the 70s. Made it was Manhunter or something.
Mm-hmm.
My favorite double action movie, The Deer Hunter.
Why would that be your favorite double action? How do you?
Because that is probably the worst situation to have to mess with a double action revolver.
How
of any movie.
Anybody in their right mind got through that wedding scene in the first of that show? The wedding goes on for like half the movie. It seems
half of it all. But once they made it to Vietnam and he became a POW, that is like the quintessential, like, that sucks double action revolver scene.
Well, that can't top that.
I don't think you guys were probably, I don't even know if you guys, well, you were probably born, but probably too little. But I grew up watching, obviously in the 70s and that, and even into the 80s. I remember TJ Hooker, Magnum PI, all that stuff. Probably stuff none of you guys watched. So,
well, I didn't watch
Knight Rider
because with my family we only watch the old stuff, and so
that's how my dad was.
I have a couple favorite double actions, and one of them I put in the pictures is Joe Friday's pre-Model 10 snub nose. I love that gun. You got one? Is that that's a pre-Model 10, or is it a Model 10?
Joe Friday, I think, carried this. He was a special.
No, actually, he carries it's a full-size Model 10 with a snubby, and I always thought it was a detective special too.
Yes and no. He carried. Here's the Model 10 snub nose.
Yeah.
He carried what you're talking about with a rounded butt.
Yeah.
In the 60s and 70s.
Yeah. That's
later Dragon series. In the 50s, he carried this.
Gotcha. Okay, that makes sense. Yeah. Okay. I still like the Model 10. Snubby. I like the 6.
Yeah, my dad was a huge fan of Magnum PI.
This is a lot smaller than this, and this will handle.
Yeah. That's okay. You got me there. But
my detective special is my favorite snub nose. I love that gun so much.
Yeah. I'll go back just a little farther though. When I think of movies, I believe it was 1928. The Public Enemy, not the Johnny Depp thing, but the original Public Enemy with James Cagney. That scene where he takes those 2 police positive revolvers and goes in after, I counted one day, 14 gangsters with 12 rounds of 38 Smith & Wesson. He ain't
and you
so
don't
tough.
see it happening. It happens off camera. You're out. The
It was
camera's out in the
excellent.
street.
When
And
he
you
comes
just hear
back
the
out,
guns going off.
when he comes back out in the street and he's bleeding from his head and he's got those two, and this is 1931 maybe, something like that. It's early. That movie, that ingrained that police. It was, I believe, that was the police positive.
He took them
They
from a
had.
gun store in a sort of Terminator-esque
Yeah, I
way.
can't really believe that if the guy behind the counter had any sense, but maybe.
Well,
I'll tell you
like
what,
in
Garrett,
Terminator,
you have
behind
got
Terminator.
Garrett, you've got to get a detective special. I'm telling you, you won't regret it.
Yeah, I've
No,
been on
you
the
won't.
hunt for a
You
while,
won't.
but I just invested in a Kibler kit, so it's going to be a little while.
Indeed, he did.
There's another good film noir scene with double action revolvers. We brought up Humphrey Bogart earlier. I mentioned it too. The Big Sleep. It's one of those convoluted story detective movies where you got to watch it like 5 times to understand what's going on. But anyway, Bogart has in his car has a device that flips open under his dashboard that reveals that hides 2 revolvers about like that, just clipped in there. I think his is a police positive, not an official police, and the other's a detective special, a backup gun. And he uses them both at one point or another in the movie. It's just really cool. He just reaches under the dashboard and just and there he is.
It's not in the
my
glove
car
box.
does that, by the way. My Escalade, if you tap the little switch, like on the dash folds up, and you could fit a 1911 right there.
Yeah, because I've studied this quite a bit, because you would think it's like a glove box where they're sitting in there, but they're not. They're actually mounted to the frame, one over the other, and you actually have to pull it down. It's actually, if you guys never seen it, go watch The Big Sleep. That's a great Humphrey Bogart movie, and I've looked at that several times and that is an awesome setup for in a car like that, because when he's laying down, behind the door, it's easy for him to get up in there and get it. Yeah, that's one of my all-time favorite movies. Actually, I love Bogart. I love Cagney and Bogart. So classic guns. Which one wins, Cagney or Bogart?
Bogart.
Oh, you think?
Bogart.
You think?
Yeah, I like Cagney.
Okay.
He's great in a lot of things. But Bogart just takes it.
He's a little more. He don't care.
Oddly enough, his best movie to me, not the best, but I mean, one of his best performances is in Treasure of the Sierra Madre. That's not really a detective movie or anything, but that's just a great story. Him going from a likable street guy, hobo kind of dude, becomes a good friend with Tim Holt and the old man, and he gradually just becomes this paranoid, crazy, gold-fevered nut. I mean, you believe this guy's going out of his mind by the end of the movie, and just it makes you think, and you're talking with whoever you're watching it with, and just really good movie, really good performance by Bogart. If y'all haven't seen that, I do highly recommend it.
I like to tell people.
To watch that.
I asked him. I said, "Can you know Treasure of Sierra Madre?" No, I said, "Well, you quote it all the time. You just don't know it." If anybody's stinking badges. We don't need no stinking badges.
We don't need no stinking badges.
Sierra Madre. Yeah, I got to agree with you. I like Petrified Forest, and Bogart's pretty good. I do like Cagney a little better because I really like the Roaring Twenties, and I love Public Enemy.
Did you ever see White Heat with Cagney?
White Heat. That's one of the ones I was going to say. When I think of a Winchester Model 97, a shotgun, I think of White Heat. For some reason, even though it's not the predominant gun he uses, at the very end, right when he catches or he discovers the informant and he's holding that gun, that is one thing that always comes to mind is Cagney and White Heat.
It's Edmund O'Brien, I think it is. The informant. I love the scene in the cafeteria where Cagney finds out his mom passed away.
Oh, that's dramatic.
Just the look on Edmund O'Brien's face, like, what the heck? That was when we found out Cagney could act. And he's screaming that the guards have to drag him out of there 6 at a time, just holding on to him. I mean,
I'm gonna have to have you back on someday just to do film noir classic movies. Video. That would be.
It sounds like you and I grew up a lot of the same way. I mean, my dad, who was sitting here a minute ago, he could tell you all. He started me out on a lot of this old stuff, and I'm talking about from B westerns to sci-fi to classic horror movies, Roy Rogers, you name it. I mean, I grew up on it. In addition to the stuff we grew up, when we were kids. I mean,
I got
Pennsylvania a minute ago.
The only thing my dad watched when I was growing up, if my dad was home, we watched Westerns. That was it. If my dad wasn't home, I could watch Magnum PI or something like that, or Star Trek. That was my dad's other one. It was either Westerns or Star Trek.
I got to ask, what was your favorite TV Western?
Oh, man. Probably Rawhide. I don't know, because I like Paladin, too. Have gun, will travel.
The late 50s were, I think, the best era for that genre to me. I mean, they were gritty. They were more realistic. They weren't, dragged out with, trying to drag them into hour-long episodes and such. But
after watching 11 Bang Bang and Snapper for so long, I now appreciate the more modern ones, like perfect example, the modern version of 310 to Yuma, because actually they didn't really carry their guns way down low like that in them Buscadero holsters in the real Old West. And when you start looking through books, nobody had a holster hanging down to their knee,
Right. Speaking of modern movies with these, did y'all ever see L.A. Confidential, made in 1998, I think?
No, I haven't.
Oh, you should check that out. If you like film noir, it's like a modern film noir movie. It takes place in the 1950s, and there's a lot of allusion to the TV series Dragnet, but they just don't call it Dragnet. It's about the L.A. Police Department. It's sort of like Dirty Harry meets Joe Friday in a way. There are two characters that are very much like those two. Russell Crowe, Guy Pearce, Kevin Spacey, Kim Basinger, Danny DeVito. Great cast, as you can see. It's a fairly long movie. L.A. Confidential. I highly recommend it. And then you see Detective Special flashed all over the place in that.
All over the place.
Yeah. Detective Special. And, 45s, and it's a good movie. Real good movie. Good. It's a lot like Big Sleep. Actually, it's one of those convoluted kind of mystery movies that you got to watch several times to understand everything that's going. There are a lot of different little things going on that you got to pay attention to understand.
It's amazing. I'm not going to get completely off into movies here, but I always loved The Big Sleep, and I had never watched To Have and To Have Not until the other day. And
good one.
I thought Bogey and Bacall, this is going to be, to me, To Have and To Have Not just was not on the same level as The Big Sleep to me. So maybe that's just because I'm more the gun guy and it was more of Casablanca style, stuff. But that was
another good one.
Oh yeah, Maltese Falcon.
But since we're on double action revolvers, sort of, you handled a Webley Fosbury revolver?
We were just talking about that a little bit ago in Maltese Falcon.
When you mentioned Snapper, you mentioned the fluted cylinder. That just jumped into my mind. That zigzag.
That Z end of cylinder. Yeah, that is the neatest thing ever to see a pistol that fires and then recoils like a gun and then comes back forward while it indexes the cylinder. I think it's like probably the coolest mix of both worlds you could get. I would love to have one. I'm sure they're just stupid expensive.
Gray Pilgrim said, I prefer John Wayne and Gary Cooper and the like. Gray Pilgrim, I do prefer John Wayne, Gary Cooper and the like too, but there is a McHugh. McHugh's a good one. That gun isn't licensed, McHugh. You just picture John Wayne there. Neither am I.
Neither am I.
But yeah, we're getting out now, guys. We're got about a minute to go. We've done an hour and a half. This has been a lot of fun. I
freaking love these live streams.
We're going to get into classic movies because, as Ethan would say, August gets here. That's the pre-Halloween season, and that's when we start watching the first Universal cycle. So, but anyway, Webley Fosbury, have you seen the price of those? Yeah, Gray Pilgrim, we have. I need to get you on the show, Gray Pilgrim. I really do. If you would be willing to come on. I've been watching some of your videos, guys. Go out there and check out Gray Pilgrim. He's got his own channel and he's got some good stuff on there. He loves the same stuff we do. And I was going to go around here and say, let's see. Let's do what we do at the end of all these. We've been going for an hour and a half, and I appreciate everybody coming out here with us. I know we didn't stick exactly on subject, but man, we had a lot of fun. And,
it's always fun on this show.
These are always fun. This is why I love coming on this, because usually in the beginning you're like, "What are we going to talk about? Well, we're going to talk about this." Okay, and then you just show up, and it's just like having a good chat with 4 of your friends, or 3 of your friends, or 2 of your friends. It doesn't matter. It's just like having fun, sitting down, and conversing with your friends.
And we've averaged 28 people in here, guys, and that is really good for this show. You got a book here. What do you got there?
Yes.
Handgunner's Guide by Chick Gaylord. If you're interested in these kind of guns, double action guns, and just how popular they were and recommended, I recommend Chick Gaylord. It's a very short little booklet, Handgunner's Guide 1960. Mm-hmm. It's a very good book. He's highly favored. He prefers Colt over Smith & Wesson, but he covers them all. He's
a good man.
Yeah, it's some of the information's a little, I guess, dated, but there's still a lot to learn from it and from what he has to say in it.
Yeah. Hey, Gray Pilgrim, he said he didn't have equipment. I will let you know, a lot of guys on here are just doing it on their cell phones. If you got a smartphone, you can do it.
I'm just on my cell phone
or a laptop with a camera. You don't have to have anything fancy, but I'll talk to you about it eventually. I want to have all you guys back this fall at some point, maybe this winter, to revisit this subject again, because we need to have the other guy from this channel, Ethan, here, because where I like Colts, he likes Smith & Wessons, and what I know about Colts, he knows that much about, early or double action Smith & Wessons. And we need to revisit this subject again, because I think there's a lot of things we could still cover. But, sure. We've had a lot of fun here, and I'm going to do what Snapper hates when I go around here and do this. Classic guns, what's your next video going to be about? What? You got anything in mind?
Well, I'm thinking about I need to get set up with some more black powder rounds, but I'd like to do a chronograph test, a chronograph test on 45 Colt in 7-inch, 5.5-inch, and 4 3/4 barrels, just for comparison, and using different powders like Swiss 3F and GoX 3F, and just to compare velocity and such.
Do 777 too, because I want to know what the velocity of that is.
It's pretty high.
Make a note of that. Yeah.
I want to see. You know what we talk about, the plowboy load. I'd love to see that run over a chronograph out of a 7.5.
I'm going to do that.
Barrel.
I'm going to do that.
I want to see that too.
I don't have the full 7.5-inch, but I do have my 7-inch Schofield.
Yeah, that would do.
I want to see the plowboy load with 777, because that's what I'm using.
That's going to be the hottest round.
I want to make it some lithium grease, as your channel recommended in 11 Bang Bang on the Schofield. Somebody mentioned Schofield a while back.
Yeah, grease in the cylinder.
Lithium grease does work. It definitely helps a lot. Instead of getting 5 or 6 rounds through it, I got 21 through it before it started binding on me. 45.
Because we did that video, just a little short video, but we threw it together because when we were up in Wyoming, we had 4 of us Colt shooters versus 1 of Ethan, who was a Smith & Wesson shooter, and his gun bound up so fast. And we do, I don't know if you've seen him, we need to do some more when he gets back, but we do fast draw competition, cameras side by side against a plate, not against each other, of course, but it's actually run on a timer. And he's faster than all of us and more accurate than all of us because of his military training. But he couldn't get us past 3 shots because, when he got into the 4th, 5th shot, his gun started binding up. And so he made that video because he had to figure out a way to make that Smith & Wesson faster than a Colt. It's just not going to happen, I guess, for most people. But, okay. Hey, American, what do you got coming up for videos?
I've got a couple of them. I've got that Colt Fitz special I'm going to be doing. I have actually a guy that made a holster for me, the one that I carry my detective special in. He's trying to get his business out there, and he just made me 2 cross-draw holsters, and the work is amazing. So I'm going to have a holster video coming out, and then I don't know. Maybe I'll get back to work on that double barrel rifle and get it finished up.
Yeah. Arizona Ghost Riders is in. He said, "You bunch of gun-toting rapscallions." Hey, Santee, if you're still watching, I got it right there. That's my pride and joy. Santee made us that poster, and it's got all of our faces on it, and I hung it up there. I do like that. Gray Pilgrim said, Ethan is a good guy. When is he back from deployment? Not sure. Hopefully
I'd love to do a video. I'd love to be on a video with Ethan and Caleb. I've never been on with either one of them.
Yeah, Caleb's a little harder to get on, but I could. He's right here. He was on before the show. He was sitting back here, but I can get him back on a few of these. Okay, Gray Pilgrim said, "A American has a Fitz. Cool. You might as well go ahead and show him A American because he wasn't here to begin with."
Well, the Colt Fitz is going to be a lot better. But let's see if I can get it in there. But that's my Fitz right there. It's got real bone grips on it.
Nice.
Well, elk horn grips. I got to be careful because, like I said, I got to go into town to do this, so I don't want to be like flashing these where somebody can come out in the parking lot and see them, you know.
I think you're fine there. Arizona Ghost Rider says, good to see you guys. When are you going to do a concert, Garrett?
Ooh.
Might ought to do that someday, just a live stream just with some music. I did. If you guys ever watched Duke Frazier's live stream, we got into about the 4th hour there one night, and we sang for about 45 minutes, and I think we woke up his neighbors. iPod Walker said, happy 4th, God bless America and those who serve. Yes, sir. All right, I'm going to go down here, Snapper. You lied to me the other day.
Sorry.
I was in the combine, and I asked him to upload a video. And you know
I'm
what he
working
said?
on it.
He
It's the
said, "I'll
same
have
video
it
I've been
first
working
thing in the
on for
morning."
5 freaking
Months?
shows.
Snapper,
No,
you got to quit editing your videos. Just do like
I
I
know.
do. Record it, and if it looks dumb, it looks dumb.
Yeah.
So, like I said before, I'm actually going to be pushing the Griswold off for a little bit, the Griswold and Gunnison, because I want it to be perfect, because it's probably the only one we're ever going to get seen shot anyways. There's no other ones out there to shoot, and nobody wants to shoot an original except me, because I'm the only person with enough kaditity to do so. I want it to be really good. So, and it's kind of put me in a spot where I'm like, I'm promising it's going to come out, but I actually have so much other content that I've been building up in the back. And I'm like, you know what? I'm going to just start releasing a little bit other content and working on the Griswold in the back until I get the Griswold where I like it. And then, so I'll actually have content coming out because there's a lot. I mean, I finally got a bullet mold for a real pocket model, but the problem is I don't have my pocket model anymore with me. I got to wait for it to get back. Dustin still has it, but it was cool. I found this actual Colt pocket mold for the 49 pocket. It's conical end ball, and I even made up some rounds for it. I got the Thunder and a bajillion other things I've been working on and shooting and playing with. Even the little, that thing's all up and going. Even loaded up some black powder 22 rounds for it already.
Are we going to see that next?
So, probably not next, just because it's freaking 120 degrees and I haven't went outside to shoot it yet. But I have 7 or 8 other guns that I've shot. I just got to edit the videos.
Yeah.
And everything's just been sitting there waiting because I've been working on the Griswold and Gunnison video.
Yeah.
So I'm just going to start releasing stuff. And once the Griswold video, I think it's done, then I'll finally release it. Or I might just get to the point where I get tired of working on it and just say, hey, look, this is good enough. We'll see.
Yep. Over here on 11 Bang Bang, we start out our regular weekly videos again tomorrow morning at 7:30. Have a 4th of July video coming out that we actually filmed last 4th of July. It stars Ethan in doing something that was actually really hard for him to get pulled off. And he did the whole
shoot
thing.
a Colt?
No, we're going back to 4th of July video. He reads some of it, but he does the whole Declaration of Independence interspaced with flintlock firearms. We did it last year. We didn't get it released. We thought we'd just hold it for a year. And so I'm glad to see it going out of the studio and into the world tomorrow.
When you said hard for him to do, I thought maybe you made him shoot some Colts.
I did make him do that in a video. If you go back and watch our police positive video.
Real quick, guys, though, hey, Great Pilgrim, it's 22 long rimfire.
Yeah,
I don't think it's 22 long rifle because modern 22 LFR don't fit all the way. It's just a tiny bit too long, but it's 22 long rimfire black powder.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway, guys, we're going to get ready to sign on out of here. Come back on the 16th. Be prepared because we have Duke Frazier with another history lesson. And it is going to be, this time, centered. Last time we did the Indian Wars huge overview, 4.5 hours. A lot of people watch that. Absolutely love it.
Great
By
video.
popular demand, we are going to come back and do a little shorter video, but we are going to focus on Custer, the 7th Cavalry, and we are going to do the 76 campaign And so tune in on the 16th. And, you know, we got a lot of other shows coming up. We do this every other week. Anyway, guys, we're going to bow on out of here. Trust in God. Keep your powder dry. Bye.
Have a good one, fellas.
Bye, guys.
July. Happy Independence Day.
Happy 4th.
Bye.